So if you read enough productivity books, you'll notice a pattern. They all work for a while. We restructure our calendar, we color code our priorities, we guard deep work blocks like we're the King's Guard outside of Buckingham Palace, and things get better. Then life changes. There's a promotion, a new sports schedule, a new set of priorities, and it seems like we're right back where we started. Personally speaking, I used to think that was a discipline problem. Man, if I could just be more committed, if I could just get better at the cognitive strain of focus. But today, I don't think that's exactly right. Now, I don't think that the frameworks are wrong. Cal Newport isn't wrong. The Eisenhower matrix isn't wrong. They're just incomplete. They're treating my focus like it's an attention problem, something that I manage with the right tools or the right environment, or maybe if it's just like the right morning routine. And I think that's where it falls apart because the whole approach shrinks real life down to attention. And I don't always think that attention is the limiting factor when we talk about real life. I think it's bigger than that. So I think focus is a deciding problem. More specifically, I think it's about who we're afraid to disappoint. So at the ripe old age of 43, this is what I've come to figure out. Every environment runs on not one, but two sets of rules. Sociologically, that's a big fancy word. There's these assumed rules that whenever we come into an environment, these are the ones that we see. The office sees our calendar, and so they know we're busy. We answer Slack fast enough that nobody questions our commitment. We show up to the Thursday afternoon meeting that should have been an email because, hey, that's the culture around here. And so that's one set of rules, but I think there's also real rules. And these are the rules that track more or less like the value that's being delivered. So not the hours logged, not visibility, not even agreeableness. The people who figure this out, they stop performing the assumed rules in invisible ways. So I'll give you an example. Every great savvy sales organization has one guy that's better than everybody else. And for some reason, they stop going to internal meetings. It's not because this person is checked out. It's because he or she did the math and the number is his standing. The meeting isn't. Any amount of meetings that this person attends is actually taking away from the thing that really shows their worth. And the interesting part is that everyone in the organization doesn't say anything because they also care about the number too. This is a silly example, but it's a ubiquitous enough example that hopefully you can relate to that. And this person isn't being difficult. I don't think this person is trying to be a rebel just for the sake of rebellion. He or she's just identified the game was actually not worth playing, or maybe the game that's very visible and the game that's invisible, they didn't have enough energy to play both. And most of us do the opposite. We scan the room and we guess what'll make us look favorable. It's a totally normal thing to do. And these assumed rules persist not because they're true, but because they're legible. Presence is easy to see. Value takes judgment. Now, here's where it gets a little uncomfortable. And I know some of you are thinking, hey, I'm not performing. I'm just being responsive. Yeah, I get it. Me too. And that's what's so hard about this. The people giving us the most immediate feedback are usually the people whose opinion of us matters the least. The colleague who notices we didn't respond within the hour, the acquaintance who calls us out for leaving the party early, the group text that generates 10 replies before noon. They're really loud, they're really present, and so we feel like the feedback is happening in real time, and therefore we have to respond in real time. Now, the people who'd notice a real change in us are mostly quiet. A wife notices our presence over time. Kids notice it over maybe a full sports season. The signal is slow, but it's no less real. The noise is fast, but most of it is just noise. Now, a few years ago, my ability to focus changed, not because of a productivity book, not because of a new focus system. The number of people whose opinion I really cared about got smaller. Now, before that, my audience was quite large. Members, staff at BPR, friends, old college classmates, people from church, man, anyone whose perception of me entered the calculation. Feedback, therefore, was coming from everywhere, so my energy could go practically anywhere. Being scattered wasn't a personality flaw looking back like I thought it was. It was a rational response to a large audience with no real center. And so then my circle contracted hard. 4 people. Interesting to me, none of them cared about my professional reputation, my feats of strength, or how many projects I had going on. They gave more honest feedback than anyone else ever had in my life. Now, this isn't an argument for children. This mechanism that I'm describing, I don't think it's biological. I think it's based on size. It's based on smallness. A circle small enough for honesty. Small enough that the people in it actually have something at stake in whether we drift. Now, once you name those people, here's the important part, you tell them that what you're trying to do gives them permission to tell you when you're off. You're giving your loyalty a target. At that point, being able to say no gets easier. And it's not because you found discipline. It's not because you became a tough guy. It's because you became very specific on who you don't want to betray. So it turns out we don't need a new system. We just need to fire most of the king's guards.